Hey guys, welcome to Heart Academy for Tuesday, January 8th, 2019. And I'm going to go through the homework that was due for tomorrow, the homework I gave out in class today. So remember, you can use the Kami app if you want to do this electronically, or you should have a paper form that I gave you in class today. Okay, so let's take a look and actually put the wrong date up here. So in your Google Classroom, remember the stream, right? That's where we're all chatting with each other, blah, 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 right? And by the way, if you check the stream, I had mentioned this in my first class. Not sure if I mentioned it in my second class, my afternoon class, right? But it's still on, your Google Classroom as well. In the GC Earth Science Google Classroom number 2. If you scroll down on the stream, you'll see a message I put about the Remind app. Okay, so I want everyone to join the Remind app. This is a text messaging system that allows you to speak to me quickly and directly through real-time texting instead of sending an email or posting to this wall. So if you click on the Remind app, through the Google Classroom, what it does is it'll make you set up an account to use your Gmail for, and then we can text each other in real time, and then you can also send me a private message, and I will get that, like if you're going to be late for class, or you need help with this, or hey, where do I find this, that type of stuff. Okay, so again, if you scroll into the stream, and I'm trying to get everyone to join the Remind app. You do not have to download the app. You can go straight to it, through and find it on Gmail if you just click this link and follow the instruction. Okay. Okay. So someone was posting today, just seeing how this works. Linda, hi, I see you. Okay. Hey, I see you. I'm just gonna try that real quick. There we go. What's the site I can do the paperless? All right, and already answered those. And okay, so people who are trying to ask questions on here. Okay, so anyway, so if you hit the classwork one, right? And what? Let me save that. Okay, so it's asking me. I need to make sure that I save. Okay, I'll put I save. All right, if you go to the classroom tab, it's going to have everything neatly posted over here. Okay, I just want to go and make sure it does the same thing for my Earth Science class. The number 2, anyway, Earth Science afternoon class. Again, like I said, you can scroll down, right, and get your Kami link to the Earth Science classroom, or excuse me, this is the Remind app, the text messaging system. And some of you guys, or most of you guys who are there today, I'm talking to Earth Science number 2. I showed you in class how to do the paperless thing. Okay, so now what we have here, if you go to the classroom part, right, you'll see the syllabus. I'm going to put this under week 1. So it's all organized better. Okay. And then also tonight's homework, I'm going to post under week 1. Notice I'm still putting 2018, right? And remember, this is today's homework. So the homework I told you that is for today, you can find it now under week 1. Well, if you're watching this video, you already found it. Okay. There we go. All right. So, and now what I'm going to do is go ahead and open up the homework that was for tonight. And I'm actually going to use it from this way. When you open up the homework, it looks like this, or if you have the paper form, the front is this. Now, the front information, you'll read and answer the questions. I'm going to try to do both at the same time to help you out. All right, here we go. So the scientific method worksheet, here we go. Anyone who has ever read a mystery novel or seen a whodunit on TV has seen the scientific method in action. Anyone who has ever tried to figure out what happened to the refrigerator light when you close the door, or where that other sock goes after you put it in the dryer, has used the scientific method. Sound familiar? The scientific method is not a mystical, incomprehensible, right, that only polyester-plaid science nerds use to solve problems. Instead, it is a logical, organized mechanism for identifying and researching a problem and devising a strategy for solving it. One way to look at the scientific method is to split it up into 5 major steps. The worksheet we did in class actually had 6 major steps. So some scientific method steps are different than others, but they all do the same thing. All right. Step 1, determine the problem, right? In this step, you, the researcher or the scientist, must decide what it is that you will be studying. This sounds like a simple procedure, but it's actually very important. It identifies exactly what you wish to learn, and it allows you to focus only on that material. So step one, determine the problem or the question, right? So actually, we're going to do this at the same time. So if you actually were doing a worksheet with me, some of these questions, we can actually already start filling in. Like this one. The procedure scientists use to answer a question or solve a problem is known as what? Now look at that. It starts with an M, S, and it ends with an M. Okay, you should know now that this means talking about the scientific method. Here you go. So, scientific method. The M's already there. So be careful, because I'm writing really big and sloppy, but you get the idea, okay? Now, let's talk about this. It says the steps involving in carrying out the, what's SM stand for again? That's right, you guessed it, scientific method. Include these steps. Now we just asked or talked about the first step. This first step says what? And you can find that information right here. Determine the problem or question, step one. So that's what we're going to put. So step one. Identify or determine. A P stands for problem, or ask a Q, which is a question. Okay? So now I'm going to continue to read so we can do the next step. So the next step, develop a hypothesis. The hypothesis is not just a random guess to your problem. Instead, the hypothesis is an educated guess. We did that in class today. In other words, it involves researching a problem and finding out what other people have learned, and using that information to help devise an answer. An important aspect of the hypothesis is that it should answer the original question, and it should be testable. Basically, it should answer the question that you made up, and it should be testable, which means, can you put it into an experiment? That's what testable means. All right, so if you go back over to the worksheet here, we have step 2, or step B is what it's calling it. State a what? Starts with an H. You guessed it, hypothesis. Okay, so now after you state a hypothesis, okay, the next step will be what? All right, you know, because right now I'm going to leave the rest of that to you, okay, because you have all that information right here. So you're going to complete this part on your own, and I'm going to start picking up from the other question. Okay, so a hypothesis here is what? Remember what we called in class? An educated guess. And you can find that information right here on the sheet. So it's an educated guess that suggests a possible explanation to some phenomenon or an event. Now I'm going to skip around a bit. Remember, you need to fill this part in on your own. I'm going to start with the next part. Okay, so this next part is the blank and blank is what the scientist or experimenter blanks and blanks during an experiment. So you're going to find that information here where it says during the experiment. Run the experiment that you have so carefully constructed. In this step, you will measure the dependent variable. We're going to measure what? The dependent variable. So blank. The blank is what the scientist experimenter measures and records, because that's what it's going to say right here. This variable, do not confuse it with the independent variable, is a thing that is being observed, measured, and a piece of information you collect regarding that dependent variable is called data. Collect data in its organized table, and the use of data to create a graph. And when we're collecting data and we're putting it into a graph or a chart, that means you're doing a measurement. Excuse me. Measures and records. That's what I was doing. There we go. Okay. Now the next one is looking for a word that starts with the I, and the compound word starts with a B. So it starts with the I, this word, and then this one starts with a B. The blank blank is the one factor the scientist or the experimenter blank or blank during an experiment. Now, if you remember from the reading that we were just looking at, it says don't confuse the dependent variable with the independent variable. Notice I just said independent variable. Okay. And you can find information about the independent variable right here. And this says there should be at least two groups in your experiment. The first group in the experiment is the experimental group. Let's try it again. It's going on. It's just a lot of time. There should be at least two groups in your experiment. The first group is the experimental group. This group has a factor that is being tested, which is called the independent variable. So, independent variable is a thing that's being tested in your experiment. What are we testing again? So, the independent variable is a thing that's being tested. It is easily identified. It's easy to identify the independent variable since it is stated in the hypothesis. Usually, the independent variable is stated in your hypothesis. Remember what we did today about the socks, right? Where are my socks? That's your independent variable. You're trying to figure out where your socks are. So the thing that we're testing is what's going on with the socks, and we're testing the dryer, okay? You may have more than one experimental group testing variable levels of the independent variable. The second group is called a control group. The control group is identical to the experimental group in every way, except that they lack the independent variable. If there were other differences, then they would invalidate the results of the experiment. All other factors, variables, should be constant. Now, we'll get more into that information as we go through the rest of this week and next week, but the information that goes here should be this. So number 5, I'm looking for the IV, which stands for independent variable. It's one factor that the scientist or experimenter, the V is going to stand for varies or controls during the experiment. All good experiments must have only what? One independent variable, okay? So again, this should say one independent variable and a blank hypothesis. What kind of hypothesis it needs to be? Tested. Now notice I skipped filling in the one independent variable just so that you can try that one on your own, or if you didn't see this video, you missed out. A blank blank is a necessary component of many science experiments and serves as a blank. Oh, what's that information? Well, let me show you. Blank is a C and a G. The second is the control group. The control group is identical to the experimental group in every way, except they lack the independent variable. If there were other differences, then they would invalidate the results of the experiment. All factor variables should be constant. All your words you need are right in that paragraph there. So let's bring that question right back over. Now, a blank blank control group is a necessary component of many science experiments to serve as a constant. You fill in for the rest of 7, the CG. Now, next one, blank are variable factors that stay the same. Blank are variable factors that stay the same. Okay. What do we call these blanks? The control group is identical to the experimental group in every way except they lack the independent variable. All other factors should be constant and stay the same. Okay, so this will be constants again. Okay, now add blank blank is identical to a blank blank. What type of group is converted to this group? A blank blank. This is experimental group is identical to the control group in every way except for the IV. You already know what IV stands for. I'll fill in some of these for you. There we go. And our last question, a good conclusion will include blank collected during the blank that validates the conclusion. Now, in order to get that last answer, find it in here on your own. And I'll see you in the morning.